Hello, my name is Niklas Emerson. I'm Director of Product Management for Spotfire, and I have the pleasure to present what is new in Spotfire 14, our new long-term support release. Our standard confidentiality and disclaimer slide. We make long-term support releases roughly once per year, and each long-term support release is typically supported for 2 years. So also see the link at the bottom of the slide, or just Google Spotfire LTS to read more details around this. As we're about to see, since the last LTS, Spotfire 12, we have added more than 70 new features to Spotfire. But I want to start by a short reminder of what Spotfire actually is, what it does, who uses it, and how Spotfire is different. Spotfire is a platform for self-service analytics that gives lines of business users the power to analyze data, share insights, and take action. Spotfire gives IT a cost-effective way to enable business users to do their own analysis. The target end users are knowledge workers that need to analyze data as part of their job to optimize their business in some way. It could be engineers who need to find ways to improve the manufacturing yields or find a root cause of quality problems, or it could be financial analysts who need to identify risky transactions. From a capability standpoint, the Spotfire platform incorporates everything that is needed for self-service analytics, from data access to data preparation to building reports and applications that can be used on computer, tablets, phones, via statistics and data science. And an important aspect of the platform is the ability to extend it and customize it to specific business needs using mods, even to the point of making it to a domain-specific analytics tool built on top of Spotfire. And Spotfire is for any data, in-memory data, in database data, big or small data, or data at rest, or data at real time, in any combination. Spotfire can also be deployed anywhere, in any cloud, on premises, using Kubernetes, or using traditional installations. When deployed using Kubernetes, Spotfire supports automatic scaling of all its services and is truly cloud agnostic, which lets you deploy in any cloud platform, in your own data center, or in any combination of these. And Spotfire is used very broadly. Almost all oil and gas companies use Spotfire for identifying new opportunities, for exploration, for drilling, for production surveillance, and for optimizing operations. And the microchips that are in your phone, in your watch, in our cars and computers, they are built by semiconductor companies that use Spotfire to identify root causes in order to increase the yield of the production process. And hopefully you're healthy, but perhaps you have needed medication in the past or will need it in the future. It's almost certain that the company making the medicine used Spotfire to identify compounds that are potent and compounds that are safe, and hopefully both of them. When you pick a product in a supermarket, that may just be because a retail brand manager analyzed shopping patterns and organized the products on the shelves to maximize the chance that you would pick that particular product. If your mutual fund is doing well, that may be because Spotfire was used to analyze market trends and decide what stocks to include in your portfolio. When you get a quote for your insurance, perhaps Spotfire was used to assess the risk and therefore decide the price of the quote. When you get a delivery to your door or to your office, Spotfire might have been used to optimize and monitor scheduling and delivery. And what we hear from users and fans are that they really like the Spotfire experience. Visualization, data preparation, and data science in one experience means that Spotfire allows them to dig deeper into the data. You can always go to the next level of analysis while staying inside Spotfire. One environment for all your analytics. If we dig deeper into what users says and categorize what they say, we find 4 concrete areas where Spotfire is different than other BI products. So first, Spotfire was built for data discovery. Spotfire combines data visualization, data manipulation in one immersive user experience. That is unique in the BI market, and it's really hard to do. Most BI and analytics software separates data preparation from data visualization. That means that Spotfire is uniquely suited to self-service data discovery because it enables the users to answer their own questions, which encourages exploration and leads to new insights faster. People like that it's fast, both with larger data and with fewer clicks to accomplish the same thing. Second, Spotfire combines visual analytics with powerful but easy-to-use statistical calculations and machine learning capabilities that you typically only find in complex statistical and data science-focused software packages. We will continue to make Spotfire more powerful, but not more complex. Third, Spotfire lets you combine data at rest with data in motion. So that may not always be required, but when it is, Spotfire is ready for it. And fourth, Spotfire has a very extensive API and can be tailored to specific use cases. Customers appreciate that Spotfire can be extended and adapted to suit the needs of specific industries and use cases, that one can automate complex analytical tasks and create a guided user experience for the end user. That's why customer tells us that there is almost nothing that can't be done with Spotfire. It's immersive, smart, real-time, and versatile. Now, with that in mind, let's look into how Spotfire 14 is even more capable and easy to use, and we'll start with visual analytics. Users can now export their table visualizations to Microsoft Excel with preserved layout, styling, and formatting. This goes for tables, cross tables, summary tables, and graphical tables. Simply right-click a table visualization in Spotfire and export to Excel. So this makes it easier to share the results of your analysis with people in organizations that do not use Spotfire. This capability is available also for consumer users if the administrator has enabled it using the export data license feature. The KPI chart has been enhanced. So this is a visualization that we originally developed with mobile use cases in mind, where it's very well suited. But it has grown popular also in dashboards and applications used on regular computers. So a short summary of how the KPI chart works. The KPI chart lets the user define one or more KPIs that each are shown in one or more tiles. These are the colored rectangles. A KPI tile can show information using two values, a trend line and the color of the tile, and also through the order of the tile. In addition, one can also define actions that are triggered by clicking on the KPI tile, and these actions can, for example, navigate to a different page or run a script or a data function, and they are often used to implement drill down and similar capabilities. So what is new? The new features of the KPI chart provide more control over the visual layout and the formatting of the KPI tiles. You can, for example, start each KPI on a new row to visually separate them for the user. You can customize the font size to create bigger or smaller KPIs, and you have better control of the layout of KPIs by specifying the minimum tile width, minimum number of tiles per row, or minimum number of visible tiles. So altogether, this makes it easier to clearly convey metrics and performance indicators in a clear, concise way on any type of screen. We'll see more in a demo here. So as mentioned, the KPI chart was made to work very well on mobile phones. So let's resize Spotfire a bit here so that it is approximately the size of a mobile phone. And before I go further, I will just use another feature here, which is sometimes forgotten. So if I go to the View section, you can see that I can maximize the canvas here. So that's a very convenient way to get a more clear view of how Spotfire actually will look in consumer mode on a mobile phone. But what I want to do, I actually want to make this even easier. I want to select, to customize the toolbar and add the maximize visualization here. That means that the visualization canvas is now maximized, and I have a very clean view of the KPI chart. So what we're looking at here is sales and profits for watches sold in different countries. And if I'm interested in digging deeper into sport watches, for example, I can scroll down and I can click on this. On a mobile phone, I would be able to tap it. This activates an action that is configured for this KPI chart to take me to a second KPI chart where I can see the sales and profit per country instead. So I can scroll down this list and I can find, for example, Vietnam here. If I click that, that activates another action that is configured to take me to another page that shows me the sales over time, the sales per city in the selected countries per model as well. And it also shows me some contextual information like the selected, the sports watches is the category where we sell the most. And we can see that the selected country, Vietnam, that is not the country that we sell the most in. I can click back and start over here. Perhaps I want to look into the standard watches instead. I can scroll down. Let's say I want to check Japan. And then we can see here the sales over time and so on for this. And we can see that in Japan, it's also not one of the countries where we sell the most. So that's just a short crash course on what you can do with the KPI chart. But let's now look into the formatting capabilities. And I will expand this to a bigger screen, and I will change the page navigation mode to title tabs. And we can look at the big screen KPIs page. So this is an example of using the KPI chart with the new capabilities to make the KPIs really, really big so that they, for example, can be shown on a big screen in the canteen or the hallway where the users are quite some distance from the screen and you still want them to be able to see the KPIs. And we have another example here when I instead used the big screen here to show as many KPIs as possible on the screen. So that is useful when the users are closer to the screen and you need to see all the KPIs as well. I've used the new settings to specify that I always want all those KPIs to be on the screen without having to scroll. So that's it for the KPI chart. And moving forward to library favorites. So this is something that is not exactly new. It came in Spotfire 12.5, but we have introduced library favorites that makes it easier to find your most important library items quickly. It's available both in the web client and install client, and both within the analytics experience and also from the library browser. So favorites are personal and make it easy to find your most used assets in the library. You can mark any type of library item as a favorite. Analyses, data connections, data functions, etc. You just click the little star icon beside the library asset to make it a favorite or to remove it from your favorites view. And I'll show you a bit of this in a later demo. We also made filters a bit more user-friendly when they are used in the text area by adding a context menu. So some of the functionality from the right-click menus that are available on the filters in the filters panel and in the data analysis flyout are now available also for filters in the text area. And moving over to data wrangling, as some of you might have noticed over the last year, we have continuously, for every release, added more web UIs in both in the installed application and the web client, and many of them in the data wrangling space. Spotfire 14 is no exception for this. So now analysts and report developers can view and edit column properties and data table properties directly from the data canvas when selecting a final data table node, both in the installed application and in the web client. So this capability makes it easier to view and edit metadata available for columns and data tables, such as the optional description of the content, customized sort order for the string columns, or number of decimals for a column. And there are new interesting capabilities in the data science space as well. So the new Spotfire service for R was released earlier this year, and it enables the execution of data functions developed using the open source R programming language. The Spotfire service for R is integrated with the Spotfire Server in the same way as the Python service and the TER service are, as you can see on the diagram here. So these are the Spotfire service for R is its own service, just like the Spotfire web player, Spotfire Python service, and so on. So that means that you can take advantage of data functions written in R using algorithms available in the vast universe of R packages for statistics, machine learning, etc. in Spotfire Analyst, Spotfire Business Author, and Consumer by using the Spotfire service for R. And I'll take the opportunity to call out an important change in Spotfire 14 as well. So in Spotfire 14, the TSSS server is removed. Users that need to use open source R need to migrate to use the Spotfire service for R instead. Using the R language previously required the use of the typical Spotfire Statistics Services server, which was a legacy component, and the Spotfire service for R is far more integrated with the Spotfire server. As I mentioned, it works like the Python service and the TER service. So note that all customers that has a license to TSSS now have access to the Spotfire service for R. It's included in the same license as Python service, the TER service, and formerly the TSSS server. And the Spotfire data science team have been busy, and I'm happy to tell you that there's now a package called Spotfire dsml available on PyPy, which is the standard package repository for Python. The Toolkit for data science and machine learning is a comprehensive suite of functions that were designed to work seamlessly with Spotfire by simplifying a set of analytical tasks. It makes it easier to develop predictive analytics within Spotfire using pipeline-based supervised models effortlessly. It makes it easier to work with text data. It includes advanced pre-processing capabilities specifically tailored to text data to clean, transform, and prepare text for analysis. It also makes it easier to prepare and analyze time series data, and I'll tell you more about this in my next slide and a little demo. And it includes functions for model explainability that allows you to interpret and communicate about how your model makes predictions. And it allows to calculate model drift and keep track of model performance over time to ensure your models remain accurate and reliable as data evolves. And this toolkit is now available as a package called Spotfire-dsml that you can install easily using the Python tools dialog in Spotfire. As I mentioned, one part of Spotfire dsml is focused on time series, and handling time series can be challenging, which is why the Time Series Analytics Toolkit provides a suite of functions designed to simplify and enhance the analysis of time series data. This toolkit covers 4 areas. The first one is pre-processing, which really is time-aware data preparation that addresses challenges like uneven spacing, different time scale, missing data, and normalizing time. Then it also covers smoothing of data. So time series data can, like other data, be noisy, making it hard to see the trends. So there is 6 smoothing functions included to help with this, like moving average calculations, simple exponential smoothing, super smoother, local estimated scatterplot smoothing, Fourier smoothing, kernel smoothing. And there is also a decomposition function to break down time series in components like trends, seasonality, and residuals. And finally, there is an anomaly detection function to detect abnormal behavior in the data with data points that deviate from the expected patterns. And this time series analytics toolkit is available as part of the Spotfire DSML package. But now let's have a look at this in Spotfire. So what we're seeing here is a time series of precipitation. You can see right away that there are several data points missing here. So you see the lines are broken, and that is because there are missing values in this time series. And that can be a problem for the analysis. For example, if I want to forecast, typically forecast algorithms may require that there is not any missing data, and indeed this is what the whole to interest forecasts tell me here, that there are missing values and it can't forecast. So let's remove the forecast until we have addressed the missing values. So, and in order to do this, in order to address the missing values, we'll use a data function built using the time series functions in the Spotfire DSML toolkit. So if I click the FX flyout here, I can see all the data functions that I've pinned to my FX flyout, but there is nothing here about the missing data. So I'll have to go look on the library. So I could search for it here, but actually I know where it is. So I'll use the new favorites feature for this. So I've favorited a number of assets in the library, and my home folder here contains a number of different data functions that I find handy, find nice to keep handy. So here you see the missing value imputation data function. I could add that as a favorite if I want to, or maybe not. Instead, I'll actually select to pin it to the FX flyout. If I then go to the FX flyout, I can now see that here I have missing value imputation, and that is exactly what I want to use now. So I just click the data function, and it starts. There are two mandatory input parameters I need to select. So I can look here at that Spotfire already selected the right inputs, and for the index, what I have to do is that I need to tell Spotfire which should be the column to use as the time series. And that's the date column in this data set. I press OK. And the data function executes. And then it recommends that it should use the output of the data function as a new data table, and that is correct. So I just press OK. And it now created a new data table, which I can inspect here in the data and analysis flyout if I like to. But actually, what I'll do is that I'll create a duplicate. I'll duplicate this line chart here, and I just change the data table to use, instead of the original data, it uses the imputed data now. And we can see in the top line chart here, which uses the new calculated and estimated values, that the time series is now complete. And that means that I can now add forecast, and we can get a forecast for the precipitation over the next 6 months. This was a very quick demo of this data function where I just used the default settings to make it easy, but the time series functionality has lots of possible settings for the advanced users, as one can see in the data canvas. Here, if I select the data function view, there are a number of settings that the advanced users may want to dig into. Returning to the presentation, and while we are at the subject of data functions, I just wanted to remind you of the large number of data functions, transformations, and statistics tools that are available for Spotfire, not only out of the box, but also in the Spotfire data function library with over 60 functions in various categories. Just Google for Spotfire data function library and you'll find it. And on to data connectivity. Spotfire now supports data from Google Analytics 4, or GA4 for short. So GA4 is an analytics service that enables you to measure traffic and engagement across your websites, helping you to understand and optimize the customer journey on your website. Google Analytics 4 is the current generation of Google Analytics now. So Google is retiring the previous generation, which is now called Universal Analytics, which Spotfire supported for several years. From this version of Spotfire, to access your legacy Universal Analytics data, select Connect to Google Analytics Universal Analytics. For new data in Google Analytics 4, just select Google Analytics 4. And the Spotfire connector for Databricks has also been updated so that it now supports accessing data from the Databricks Unity catalog, which is a unified governance solution that provides centralized access control, auditing, lineage, and data discovery capabilities across the Databricks workspaces. Spotfire integrates seamlessly with Databricks and lets you analyze your data in Spotfire's intuitive visual data discovery experience. And as with many of our recent releases, we made improvements related to OpenID Connect and OAuth use cases in Spotfire. So information services now support initiating OAuth 2 flows when needed to authenticate users to access a specific external data source. So this is useful in cases where Spotfire and external data source use different identity providers, and also when using the same identity provider, but it does not allow scopes for different resources in the same access token requested through OIDC. So this is extending the OAuth capabilities already introduced earlier, where you can have SSO to data sources using the same identity provider as the Spotfire server. And along the similar lines, Spotfire now supports persistence for refresh tokens when accessing data sources through information services or typically data virtualization. And that means that the users does not get prompted to log in as much as before. You can also see on the Spotfire web administration pages on the My Account page, it's possible to view and manage all active access and refresh tokens for better usability and troubleshooting. And now, for anyone that installs, deploys, and administers Spotfire for your organization, let's see what's new in the admin and governance space. There is now a REST API for library asset management. This API supports the operations list items, show item details, download items, upload items, delete, and search for items. And note that the search items support using library search expressions, which are really powerful. And that lets you find assets modified by a certain person, items modified recently, and items not accessed for a long time, for instance. The library REST API also supports version history operations like modify version name and description, delete version, and others. Some of the valuable use cases that this API enables are integration with other applications and systems, automation in CI/CD pipelines, and promotion and migration between Spotfire environments. We also added the capability to Spotfire's version history. This was introduced in Spotfire 12, and now in Spotfire 14, we add the ability to control if an analysis file should be versioned or not from the analyst client. So this is useful when one wants to let the author control if the file they are working on needs to be versioned or not. So you need write permission on the analysis to modify this setting. There is also a setting controlled by the administrator that controls if the version history is enabled or disabled by default. If enabled by default, then the end user can opt out for the analysis version history. If you disable it by default, then instead you let the user opt in for having version history for the analysis. And there is also an option for administrators to completely disable library version history if one does not want to use it. And administrators sometimes need to restart the Spotfire Server instances, for example, due to a configuration change or taking a machine down to add more memory or something else. And of course, normally you want to do this with minimum or zero business impact. So now if you have a cluster of Spotfire servers, you can easily perform a rolling restart. So that is one of the server instances at a time when a graceful shutdown is initiated. What it means is that the server instances in the cluster will restart on an instance-by-instance basis, and thus there will always be some server instance available to serve the users. And if you're using schedule updates to cache analyses so that they open quickly when business users need them, you probably will find this a welcome improvement. In previous versions of Spotfire, each Spotfire web player service instance had a separate queue for the initial loading of analysis files used in schedule updates, and the queue was assigned when the job arrived. This could lead to, in some cases, that a job could end up behind slower jobs and get stuck, even if other web player instances were available and could have served the job quicker. In Spotfire 14, there is now a single queue for all service instances on the Spotfire server, and each schedule updates job is only assigned to an instance when a slot is available in that instance, meaning that when a job is assigned to a web player instance, it will begin to be served immediately. So, as a simple description, before it was like if you are in a supermarket and there are 10 checkouts and one line for each checkout, then you always have to worry about which line to pick right, and I always pick the wrong one. Now, instead, it's more like we have one common line for all the checkouts, and from the end of that line, you go to the checkouts as they become available. So that means that resources are utilized as well as possible. And jobs are assigned to web player instances where there are empty slots, if the instance is not strained in terms of memory or CPU. Also, we have made it easier for admins to check how many Spotfire named user licenses they have assigned. The new server CLI command, show named users licenses, provides a summary of how many users that have been assigned Spotfire named user licenses, which are Spotfire Analyst, Spotfire Business Author, and Spotfire Consumer. So this makes it easy for system admins to ensure that they are deploying the Spotfire licenses to the correct number of named users for each product license. So this is how the output of the show named users licenses command looks. And in this case, you can read that the admin of the system have assigned 1 Spotfire Analyst name user, 3 Spotfire Business Author users, and 2 Spotfire Consumer name users. And notice that you can read more about the Spotfire product licensing in the product documentation. We have also updated the Cloud Deployment Kit to be compatible with Spotfire 14. The Cloud Deployment Kit provides an easy way to deploy Spotfire using Kubernetes. And note that using cloud-native methods and tools doesn't necessarily mean that you need to deploy on cloud. You can take advantage of the benefits anywhere, in any cloud, or in your own data center. Thanks to the Cloud Deployment Kit, you get easier and faster deployments and upgrades with automatic server clustering, trust, load balancing, and package deployment. You get automatic Spotfire database and action database configuration. You get off-the-shelf logging with FluentD to any custom log database like Elastic. You get off-the-shelf monitoring with Prometheus annotations to any metrics database supporting open metrics. And with the help of KIDA, independent horizontal auto-scaling of every Spotfire service using predefined or custom metrics. We've also improved the library search capabilities. So the helpful library search dialog now also lets you search easily for analyses that specific users created or modified. And I'll show you a little bit more about this shortly. Just wanted to point out also that search expressions in the Spotfire library are now automatically added to the URL of the Spotfire library view you are in. This makes it easy to share a search expression with others or to bookmark and keep it for your own sake so that you can repeatedly look at the same library search results. You can just search in the Spotfire library and then copy the URL from your web browser to share that with others so that they can see the search results. I will actually show you in a quick demo here. So I just need to log in. So here we are in the library browser, and here you can actually, you have a little dialog which helps you search in the library. So what we want to look at here could be, for example, let's say we want to look for data connections. And let's say that we want to look at data connections that were modified this year. So let's search. And we find a number of data connections that have been modified this year. We can also look at, let's say, anything that's been modified in this month by the specific user Niklas. And that shows me the things that are modified as I've prepared for this demo. And now, if I want to share this, I can just copy the URL here. You see it includes the search expression. And I can paste it here. And that gives me the same view as I just configured manually. So that means I can send this to any other user that have access to this server, and they can see the same thing. And it means also that if I have such a library search expression that I want to reuse, look at on a regular basis, I can also add it as a bookmark, or as I've done in this case, I've added these to my Google, my Chrome start page. So if I click at this one, I get to see the data connections. And if I click at this one here, that is the updated analysis files. So these are analysis files that have been updated by myself. So that makes it easy to share and distribute these kind of results for library search expressions with other users, making it easier for yourself or for other users to find certain library assets. Okay, as an admin, when you're planning to upgrade to Spotfire 14, there are a few steps you should plan to take before getting started. We have created a community article that gives you an overview of this. So the new Spotfire branding means that there are some installation paths that have changed. And as I previously mentioned, the TSSS server is removed. So if you're using open source R in data functions, you may need to migrate to using the Spotfire service for R. There are also some database drivers that are no longer included with Spotfire, and the Oracle Java is replaced by Eclipse Temurin as the embedded JDK. Read more on this community article and also refer to the product documentation. And the last area is APIs and SDK. Spotfire is very extensible and customizable to the extent that you can build domain-specific analytics tools on top of Spotfire, which partners and customers have done. And apart from the library REST APIs that are covered in the administration session, there are also some more news for developers. The Spotfire custom extensions are distributed as .sdn files that are deployed to servers' deployment areas, and from there distributed to users and services. And an improvement to the package builder console application now makes it possible to bundle several distribution files into one distribution file. And this allows for easier distribution of multiple products as one distributable unit, while letting you develop and maintain the products separately. And since we added new capabilities to the KPI chart, we also added APIs to configure these new capabilities. So we have a feature parity with the API and what you can configure in the user interface. All in all, there are more than 70 features since the last LTS release, so be sure to check the release notes and documentation for more detailed understanding of each feature. And before I wrap up, I just wanted to point out that we have a new Spotfire website, spotfire.com. I hope you visit it to learn about Spotfire in different industries and use cases, to find documentation, getting started, resources, or if you want to get involved. Spotfire.com/get-involved is a great place to start if you're looking for other Spotfire users' input on a topic on the community, want to read about analytics and Spotfire in our blog, or if you have a suggestion for how to improve Spotfire, the Spotfire ID portal. Thank you so much for attending, and hope you will make good use of all the new capabilities in Spotfire 14.